Hello, art teachers. This video is about teaching pixel art, which is a great cross-curricular connection to the math class. So math teachers might be interested in this as well. I love to do this lesson, especially near the end of the year in testing season, when students are in and out of the room, because everybody can work independently. It's quick, clean, it's inexpensive. It covers a wide age range. I start in third grade. You can go all the way up through high school. It's high interest because they get to pick their own subject, and it teaches graphing and sort of forces them to think about composition and use of space in a way they might not have before. For this project, you're going to need graph paper. I like the quad rule. That means there are 4 squares to the inch. This is a good manageable size, especially for elementary. If you're middle school or high school, you might want to go with a little bit smaller squares. And they do make the graph paper with a little bit bigger squares, but they tend to be so big you really can't get much on a page. So the quad ruled is ideal. You're going to need pencils, and I always encourage them to use colored pencils to color in their work because you can get it to a fine point to get in those squares. They want to use marker, but marker tends to be too fat and it bleeds too much. Again, in the upper grades, if you've got some really fine point pens or markers, you could use that for a good effect. And you're also going to need pixel art patterns. You can let the students look these up on their own devices, but you really need to have these printed out on paper so that they can follow along with their fingers or mark them off as they go. So I print out piles of these, and the really popular ones print out many copies. I usually have 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade all working on this at the same time, so that's about 300 students. It's a lot of printing, but you want them to have plenty of choice, and anything that doesn't get written on can be used year to year. You're going to want to have a variety of complexity. Some simple, some medium range, and if you've got the upper level students, you can really go complex. Patterns are easy to find. You just need to search pixel art. Cross-stitch patterns will work, and also perler bead patterns will work. Needlepoint patterns will not work because needlepoint stitches are actually slightly elongated, and if you try to copy a needlepoint pattern, the final image will be sort of stretched. I like to have a variety of alphabets for them to follow as well. This adds to the high interest. It's usually pretty simple, and people love to make their name. I start my kids with a draw along, so they can really get the concept of what we're doing. Everybody has a piece of graph paper, and I project these squares up on my board, and I explain we're going to do this first one together. This is a test, and if you can pass this test, then you get to pick out and do whichever one you want. So we go very slowly here. Okay, I want you to pick a square in the center, and I want you to color that square all the way in. Now we're going to add 2 more squares up on the corner. Looks a little bit like a Mickey Mouse. Many of them will say it looks like the creeper, whatever that is. But this is a great opportunity to talk about what pixels are and what kind of art is made from pixels. I usually reference the video games Minecraft and Roblox. Those are the 2 things that they're using that use pixels. Now we add these 2, makes it look a little bit like a bird. And at this point, while I'm teaching this, we're going real slowly, and I am circulating around the room to see who's getting it. Now, at this point, somebody is going to call out, "We're making a heart." Yes, we are making a heart, which is a real good symmetrical shape to start out with. Most of your class is going to get this pretty easily and be able to move right on to the next step. I use this as a bit of a diagnostic tool with my 3rd graders so that I can spend a little bit more time with those who clearly don't get it, who aren't able to position each square correctly. While everyone else is working independently, I can sit down with them and really work through the step-by-step process of following the chart and getting it lined up correctly. Counting is very important. A lot of kids just want to eyeball it, and they have confidence that they're eyeballing it correctly when they really need to be counting. So then we set to work. Everybody gets in the bin, picks out their project, and starts working. And that is also when the mistakes start, which is totally fine and part of the whole lesson plan. Rather than doing everything together step by step, matchy matchy, I let everybody pick their own, dive in head first, and then maybe change their mind. A lot of times people pick things that are a little too ambitious or have too much of the same color, they get confused easily. That's when I can step in and give some strategies to solve whatever problem they're having. I like to go line by line across the top, but I find most of my students want to go all the way around the edge. In smaller, simpler designs, this works okay. In larger designs, a little miscalculation can totally throw you off. I also encourage coloring in with the color as you go. I get a lot of students that want to draw the outline of the box for the whole thing before they color everything in, but they don't realize that when they're using a pencil, the outline of every box is just going to end up looking like graph paper. But although I do encourage, I let them make their own mistakes, think it through. One good strategy, especially for larger pictures, is to draw an axis line in the middle of the pattern and also put that same line in the middle of your work. Make it in pencil so you can erase it. I also encourage crossing off as you go. That's a good way to keep track of where you are. I try hard to make all of my examples appropriate for the age group I'm working for and the size of paper. But again, if you're working with older, more accomplished students, they will learn this important lesson, that the scale of the squares is really going to affect your final product. So if what you're copying has very small squares and the paper that you're using has very large squares, the entire image is going to scale up to something perhaps too big for the paper. Now that's solvable. You can just tape more pieces of paper together. Or you can start with graph paper that has smaller squares. It's really a great exercise to introduce students to the concept of gridding a drawing when they're doing more realistic or larger works. Whoops! If you look closely, you'll see my friend Matthew's car does not exactly match here. But that's okay. When the students make mistakes, and they will, I talk them through the process. They always have a choice. They can do one of three things. They can start over if it's something in the very beginning or something that's really going to bother them. They can try to fix it if it's something that is erasable or if you can cover it up in some way with, a darker, stronger color. Or they can ignore it. In some cases, starting over is going to be the best option. In some cases, fixing is going to be the best option. And in some cases, just living with it is the best option. And helping them to decide which choice is going to be best for them in any given moment is part of the lesson. So here are some of my students and their work using patterns. Students not to use a pattern. Go off on your own. See what you can design yourself. My students really love pixel art. It's challenging, but relaxing. They always want to take some home to work on it. And it makes them feel smart. Not just a good artist, but good at thinking and problem solving. I'm Heidi Howe, and I would love to see how your pixel art comes out. You can post it in the comments here or on the Facebook page. We're all in it together, so anything that you share is going to help other art teachers.